What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. Not a better time on earth to wear this shirt. We're going to talk about the Kawhi Leonard situation. I'm no financial expert or anything like that. I'm going to try and talk you through it as simple as possible in layman's terms type of thing. But again, I'm no financial expert. So Pablo Torre goes on his podcast. He finds that Steve Ballmer had signed a deal with a company called Aspirations. And in that deal, it was supposed to pay Kawhi Leonard $28 million for nothing. Kawhi Leonard did nothing. He made $28 million. Well, he didn't make $28 million. He only made $21 million. We'll talk about that later. But the only clause was he just had to be a Clipper. They tried to circumvent the salary tax and the cap situation by going through a company that never really existed but existed. The issue is that the Clippers are also claiming, hey, Steve Ballmer got defrauded too because the owner of Aspirations was a good fibber and lied about just about everything to start the company and build its value. For instance, here's the thing. Aspiration, the company, said that they had a bunch of financial backers and they had gotten money up to, I believe, $100 million in liquid investments. They said they had close to $100 million or over that in liquid investments. Every single one was fake. Basically, what they did was they hired a graphic design team to fake the investment documents, saying that they made over $100 million. That's one type of fraud. They defrauded their investors by basically saying, hey, look at all these investments we have. We're making all this money because everyone's investing in us. So guess what? You should too. No, that's fraud, because the actual investment value was like $3,000 to $10,000, and that's a big old difference from $100 million. And I think you can realize that as well. So the investments did not equal $100 million, but Aspirations told everyone, hey, we got $100 million on these investments. We're doing great. They were not doing great. Aspiration had zero money on the books. They actually had no money. They made nothing. They did a whole lot of nothing. They just got $10,000 in investments. They didn't have a lot of money. So what they did was they asked for celebrity investments and then illegally said that that was revenue on the books. So they fudged these documents to say, hey, we're making all this money. You guys should invest. And so people did invest, and it turned out they actually had zero money. But the celebrity investments they got, like the Ballmer money and other guys like that, I believe Doc Rivers also endorsed them as well. The thing is that they were writing down those celebrity investments as revenue. Again, that's also fraud. So when they had no money on the books and they were making no money, I guess you can fake it until all of a sudden you can't when you have to repay investors and they find out you have no money and did zero work. So guess what happened? The government started looking into it. The feds started looking into it, basically saying, hey, why are all these people losing millions and millions of dollars on a company that's suddenly just going belly up for no reason? And that's what the government found was that, this was all fake. Every book they had no money being made, actual revenue. They made $0 revenue. But the thing is that they were basically telling everyone that these investments they got were revenue. Again, highly illegal stuff. The owner of Aspirations, Mr. Joseph Sandberg, I had to look up his name real quick. Sandberg, not Sandberg. Sandberg, yeah, really weird name. He pled guilty to defrauding multiple investors, which again, we just discussed is absolutely true. And announced that Aspirations still owed money to about everyone that they defrauded. That included Kawhi Leonard. They owed him $7 million. They had yet to pay him the full $28 million. They owed him $7 million. So basically, they were doing the LLM scheme where we're going to take money from this guy to pay off this guy. It's big in the multi-level, or MLM, not LLM, MLM, multi-level marketing schemes where it's like, yeah, I'm going to con this next guy to give me money, and then I'm going to use that guy's money to pay off the last guy's money. It's highly illegal. And again, like I said, Kawhi Leonard wasn't the only one who was being funded by them, quote unquote, as Doc Rivers had an arrangement. Doc Rivers did provide endorsements for the company. And yeah, I don't know why Doc Rivers, I don't know how much Doc was paid. I guess Pablo Torre didn't say that part. But yeah, the only kicker in Kawhi Leonard's contract, there was many stipulations. He didn't have to post. He didn't have to go to anything. He didn't even have to show up to like their office building or anything. He didn't even have to shake somebody's hand. All he had to do was be a Clipper. And that's what kind of makes it feel like it was dodging the salary cap, was the fact that that was the only clause in the deal. That feels a little bit shady. So the reason why I didn't upload this video yesterday is because I wanted to wait and see, do the Clippers actually come out and say anything? Because the NBA had just started their investigation. Of course they did. The Clippers avidly denied circumventing the salary cap. They said that, well, Mr. Ballmer also lost money. We're not trying to dodge the salary cap. Ballmer was actually just trying to make a very reasonable investment and was defrauded out of his money, which I believe is maybe true. There's a small sector of people that really don't want to believe Ballmer was defrauded. They're basically saying, you really think the millionaire wasn't in on the fraud deal? Hey, man, if you don't want to believe the billionaire, don't believe the billionaire. I said millionaire. Steve Ballmer's like the top 5 richest man in the U.S. right now, or maybe in the world. He's really, really rich. And there's a lot of people that don't believe him and don't believe the Clippers when they say Ballmer was also defrauded. If that's the case and you don't want to believe your local billionaire, don't. They've shown plenty of reasons for us to not trust them. But here's the thing. I kind of agree with it because there's a lot of people that got defrauded in this thing. And I know he's a billionaire, but here's the thing. The guy pees money. Yeah, Joseph Sandberg pled guilty to $243 million of fraud, and Ballmer had no knowledge or anything like that. Aspiration was a team sponsor for 2021-2022 and the 22-23 season before defaulting on its contract because, again, they couldn't pay. They had no money. They're saying there was nothing unusual or untoward about the team sponsor and endorsement deal with the players in the same team. Again, my issue with it is that the stipulations of the contract aren't anything involving the actual company. Kawhi, like I said, didn't even have to show up. All he had to do was be a Clipper, and that feels like really, really weird stipulations in the deal, that you have to be a part of this organization to get money from a different organization. Kind of what I've gotten out of it as well is that Steve Ballmer ate 22, so they invested, I believe it was $50 million was what Ballmer invested, and $28 million was to be spent going back to Kawhi Leonard. So he basically spent $22 million on a whole lot of nothing. Correct me if I'm wrong. The funniest thing is that I've also seen on Twitter is that a few years back, the Clippers posted on social media a post that said, trees for threes for each three-pointer the Clippers score this season. Aspiration will plant 3 trees. So far in that season, I don't know if this was 21 or 22, they planted 3,306 trees that season. The issue is that they were also tagging, I guess, nobody, because Aspiration, they tagged at Aspiration, and at Aspiration is not a company. It's an individual person on Twitter that is not affiliated with the actual company. I don't get that. That was wild. Hearing the term no-show job is hilarious to me because all I can think of is The Sopranos now. If you don't know, in the TV show, Tony Soprano runs a construction company as well as a sanitary business. He doesn't do anything at either job, and he just sits back and collects money. It's essentially a bunch of no-show jobs. Yeah, it's hilarious, like seeing all the Sopranos memes about it, because it is true, man. If it's a no-show job, it is kind of mob-esque. You may also be asking, well, what happens from here? If the Clippers get found to have been circumventing the salary cap, or they realize, hey, they have been going around and paying Kawhi an extra $28 million for nothing, what can happen? Well, a lot of people have been pointing back to Joe Smith with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I can explain that one a lot better because it's all NBA related, and there is no third company that faked investments, blah, blah, blah. What happened with Joe Smith was he declined an extension with the Warriors and demanded a trade. This is back in like, 02, something like that. KG was a Timberwolf back then. I forget what year it is, but Joe Smith has an extension lined up for, I believe, $80 million with the Warriors. He declines. He wants to get traded. He ends up in Minnesota. He goes to Minnesota. Minnesota does not have his bird rights now. They would need to have him for 3 years in order to have his bird rights. So he hits free agency. Joe Smith hits free agency after the season. He gets a couple of contract offers, but declines all of them, takes a 1-year deal, basically a vet min almost, to go back to the Timberwolves. The thing is that it was highly illegal because Joe Smith had basically done a handshake agreement with the Timberwolves to basically say, I'll take 3 BS 1-year deals worth nothing. In exchange, after those 3 years is up, you're going to have my bird rights. You can go over the luxury tax back then. I didn't know if they had a hard cap back then. Yeah, you can go around that. You can go over the salary cap if you have my bird rights. You'll sign me for a lucrative extension, and we'll be good. highly illegal again. You can't sign 3 one-year deals with the express interest and the wantingness to acquire bird rights so that way they can pay you more. So what happened with the Timberwolves back then? I believe they lost 5, count them, 5 first-round picks, consecutive drafts, and I believe Joe Smith's contracts were terminated. All 3 one-year deals that he got, terminated, kiboshed. And Joe Smith was recently in the news. His wife was cheating on him, and his wife was doing wild stuff. I don't know, man. Joe Smith's had a wild career for a guy who was an actual draft bust. But yeah, it's similar, kind of similar in the sense where it's evading the salary cap by giving money through a different way. I'm sure the Timberwolves, I'm never sure if they uncovered anything about this, but I feel like the Timberwolves definitely had to pay him under the table because Joe Smith was serviceable as hell in Minnesota, and there's no way he was just playing for like $5 million for no reason. They were probably paying him under the table to go with that. Clippers get found to be doing wrong here. I'd assume that the punishment could be very similar to the Joe Smith thing because, again, circumventing the salary cap is like, I mean, that's the worst thing you can do as an owner in the NBA. Not the worst thing you can do. Donald Sterling did a lot worse. But in terms of basketball things you can do, if Steve Ballmer is found to be lying, and basically he did just get Kawhi Leonard $28 million for no reason, yeah, it's going to be really bad. I don't know if they'd force him to sell, because Glenn Taylor only got suspended. In the Minnesota Timberwolves situation with Joe Smith, Glenn Taylor only got suspended. I'm not sure if they would like force a sale here, but if I'm being honest, Steve Ballmer's got enough money. He could probably pay and make this go away. That's really up to him. Let's be honest with each other. When you got mega billions, not even mega millions, mega billions, I mean, come on, man. You can make a lot of things disappear. So just to recap, Steve Ballmer invested $50 million into this company and basically said, hey, guys, reroute 28 of that $1 million to Kawhi Leonard. The only reason he invested that $15 million is because, A, he probably believed in the cause. They were planting trees and shit. And B, he probably believed it because there were other celebrities endorsing them, and they had fudged the books basically saying we were making millions and millions of dollars every day. They were not. They were faking that money by getting celebrity endorsements and then basically writing that off as revenue, which is, again, highly illegal. I'm just explaining this one more time. That's highly illegal. You cannot take endorsements and say it's revenue. That's terrible. So when Aspiration had $0 left and couldn't pay people back, like I said, they still owe Kawhi Leonard $7 million. Boardman did not get paid the full amount. When everyone stopped getting paid, the government started looking into it and realized they never made a singular dollar outside of the $3,000 to $10,000 that they actually had. I forgot to mention the ghost money guy. There was basically a money guy with the company that was basically saying to the celebrities that were investing, like, hey, if you have interest in this company, I have financial backing for this company. If you lose your investment, if the dollar amount goes from whatever we're at today on the stock market to $0 tomorrow, I'll pay everyone back. There was some money guy. I don't know who the money guy was, but they keep mentioning him in a lot of articles they read, basically. So the money guy basically said, I got your back if you invest. And then the investments went in, and then the money was not made. There was no money made. They stopped paying people. They had no money. They stopped sponsoring the Clippers because they had no money, and the company went belly up. And the money guy went, where did he go? Don't know. He might be in Maldives, Africa, Brazil, maybe. I doubt he's in the country anymore, unless the money man was the owner, which I really doubt. Yeah, there was a financial backer that said that they would cover any investors. And he didn't. He lied, just like the owner did. The shady part of this deal is that it is a no-show job, and Kawhi Leonard didn't have to endorse it a single time, didn't have to show up, didn't have to do anything. The only terms of the contract was that he had to remain a Clipper, and he would get paid. It doesn't really paint, if you're asking for my opinion, this doesn't really paint them as very innocent, as, yeah, it feels like you're circumventing the cap, basically saying you don't have to do anything but be there, which is... You know what? To be honest, it's really fucking smart, man. You probably don't want to hear that because, you know, millionaires do this, billionaires do this stuff all the time, but it's plenty smart. Shout out to Pablo Torre, man. I shout out Pablo Torre like once an episode on the show, I feel like, because he does investigative shit every other day. He blew open the NFLPA issues and everything like that as well. Pablo Torre does really good work. The thing is that he didn't really talk much about the company going belly up in his podcast, from what I listened to. That's kind of where I'm like, what are we doing here? It feels like he left out the most important bits, the fact that Ballmer may have gotten defrauded as well. And again, I'm not saying that, hey, you should feel bad for billionaire Ballmer. He lost on an investment. I don't really care, man. I don't care. It's his money, not mine. But a lot of people are probably mad that they circumvented the cap. Now it all comes back to, although also there was Aspiration employees on the Pablo Torre podcast saying that it was ways to circumvent the cap. The only issue is that, again, if this ends up in a courtroom, that person would have to testify now, I think. And they came out as anonymous. I don't know. I don't know how that would work. Talk to me down below with that one in the comments. One of the whistleblowers that came out on the Pablo Torre podcast and said, yeah, this was all a hoax. This was to circumvent the cap. Would he now get subpoenaed and have to go to court because he was one of the people that helped blow it open and he was one of those people that said that? I don't know. Talk to me down below in the comments if you think that I missed anything. If you just want to talk about it down in the comments, go ahead. Like I said, if you don't want to trust Steve Ballmer, don't trust Steve Ballmer. That's all you, man. My personal opinion, I think Ballmer was defrauded, but also I do think that it was a way to circumvent the cap, the salary cap, because why would he throw away $22 million just to get Kawhi $28 million? That's how rich he is, by the way. You think about that. That's how rich Steve Ballmer is. He basically paid $22 million to get Kawhi Leonard $28 million. Except he paid $22 million to get Kawhi $21 million because Aspiration never paid him the extra $7 million. This is a really weird case, and I'm curious as to what happens. If I had to guess of what happens, if you want to ask for what I think will happen with this case, I think we'll forget about it in about 3 months, and then in 8 months, they'll come out and say, yeah, we didn't really find anything. And then everything will go away as back to normal. Some people will think it's conspiracy. Some people will think it was legit and Ballmer got conned. Regardless of what you think, if you've enjoyed this video, you should like, you should subscribe. I tried to keep it relatively simple in layman's terms, but I may have missed some stuff. Again, talk me down in the comments. I want some engagement on this because this is one of the wildest stories of the offseason. Also, James Harden's restaurant went up, but I will say about that one, like, it feels like 8 out of 10 celebrity restaurants end up going under anyways. What's crazy is that they let the debt, they let the rent that was not being paid get up to like $20 million before they sued. That's really weird. But either way, if you enjoyed, like, subscribe. I'm going to go catch the game. See you guys in the next one.